Hey everybody, welcome back to the Nidus Anarchy series. I'm your host Adam, the CIO of Nidus, and today we're going to be talking about inexperience versus training. And where is that middle ground? What's acceptable? So this is something that happens everywhere, right? Like you onboard somewhere and first they vet you all out. They make sure, oh, you know the software inside and out. You have tons of experience doing this stuff. You're great. And then as soon as you get on site, the first thing you find out is they want you to go through their dumb training classes, right? Everyone knows those mandatory like training of, the sexual harassment training and all that, all that stupid stuff that you have to do and just click through and take those tests. I'm not talking about that training. The training I'm talking about is the actual hands-on product of what they do. So even if you have all the experience in the world of whatever, let's say some SSO tool that you're going in to install, when you get there, they're gonna be like, wait, this is how we do it. And I always find this hilarious. Every time you start with a new client, they always think they're the worst. And I was like, oh man, you've never worked anywhere until you've worked here. You don't understand. And I was like, the way I always like to cut the ice is tell people, let me guess. You have it, let's say the company is Acme, right? So you'll be like, let me guess. So you guys have the Acme way for everything. They're like, oh, exactly, we do. Everyone has that. Okay, I'm just telling you right now. Every single company has the insert my company name here way. And it's always messed up. It's just to what degree. So whenever you start on a new client site, you're always going to have to learn their way of doing things. So the question comes, how much experience does this person have to have? And then how much is it okay just to train them, because it doesn't matter what they know to a certain degree, because you're going to have to train them up to a certain point. So my personal experience is I'm not too worried about what people's experience is with a specific product or a skill set, as much as I know their capability of being able to pick up things fast and run with it independently. To me, those are the two biggest things that I look for in a person when we're hiring internally, or when I'm working with clients and helping them vet out people for positions and roles within their company. And within the identity space, as many of you know, it's massively complicated. There's a ton of moving parts. There's a ton of pieces that integrate to it. So someone that can figure out your environment, someone that can figure out the problem, the root cause of things, someone that knows how to troubleshoot, someone knows how to really get down on the OSI model and to figure out exactly where the issues are happening and how to troubleshoot this stuff using basic network and basic, like Linux commands to get around. Those things are foundational, in my opinion. If you have someone that knows a product inside and out, but they have absolutely no idea how to use a Linux command line and everything's installed in Linux, like, that's a huge undertaking. Like, being able to teach someone how to set up an SSO tool, you can do that. Teaching someone how to use Linux that's never used it before, that's painful, right? Like, there's years of experience there that you really want them to have. So when looking for the whole, inexperience versus training, to me, I'd rather train them up on the insert my company way here, that versus teaching them the fundamentals of stuff that they should already know to be able to do the job. This is something I'm seeing a lot more now. And I think a lot of it has to do with just traditional budget cuts, and there's been lots of layoffs and everything else recently. So what's happening is a lot of these, brain trusts of knowledge are leaving, whether they're quitting or getting laid off or whatever. So these jobs and roles are being transitioned over to other people that have no idea what they're doing. It's just, oh, well, you run the Windows servers? Oh, well, then that means you can also manage all the Unix servers because you know what servers are. And next thing you know, you have guys that have absolutely no idea what they're doing and making decisions from a Windows perspective on how to manage Unix systems. And that's disastrous most of the time. So I think what's really important too, though, is to notice when that's happening that you have to make a change of personnel. I'm not saying fire people. What I am saying, though, is that you understand that you may have the wrong person for the role quickly. There's only so much training you can give somebody before you should realize that they're just not getting it, or they're not up to par to where the training is going to be perpetual. It's going to take way too long to get them up to speed. You're going to lose a ton of time and money trying to get them up to speed because it's just something they're not capable of picking up in an efficient time. Making that decision, there's no equation. You can't write it down on paper. There's no Excel spreadsheet that you can fill out that will tell you when to do this. This is really a gut feeling, right? And you know what that is. Like, that feeling in your gut when you've been working with this person, and eventually you're just sitting there, you have that conversation in your head where you're like, this is just painful. Like, they're just not getting it. When you have that thought, you need to switch the person out with someone else. you're going to spend way too much time and frustration trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. And I like to think of this as like whenever I have to fire somebody. I learned this a long time ago. And it was firing someone. The first time I had to fire someone, it was probably the most painful process I've ever had to learn and go through. It's horrible. It's worse than getting fired. Let's really put it that way. And a lot of people don't think so. And it's like, oh, these people just lay people off and they don't care. I've actually gotten canned off of a position once, and the lady that was calling me to tell me my position was no longer there. She was crying on the other end of the phone. Just, I mean, you could hear the tears coming down her face. I'm not laughing because it was funny. She was crying. I'm just saying it was that intensive an experience for her, because it wasn't the only one. There was a whole department that she had to can one after the other. And you could tell it was just eating her up inside. So laying off people, firing people, whatever, it's always brutal. So one thing that someone told me a long time ago, I don't know who or where I heard or read this, but it's been great advice, and I'm going to pass this on. So if you ever need to fire someone or remove someone from a role and just exchange them for someone else, think of it this way. Don't think of it as like you're ruining their life or you're, ending their career or anything like that. What you're doing is you're opening them up to move into the role that they're meant to be doing. Because if you have to replace them, if you need to pull them out of this position to put them in another position in the company or get rid of them altogether, whatever it is, that's not the role for them. There's something that they are great at, that they're passionate about, that they love doing, and that they really understand really well, and they really want to run with. You got to find what that is. And honestly, they need to find what that is and kind of push for it themselves. But if you keep them in that position that's not meant for them, that's that square peg in a round hole. You're by getting rid of them, you're opening them up so that they can go to the role they actually like. And if you want to think about it from the other side, like if you're an employee or something along those lines, think of it this way. How many times have you had just a total job? I mean, it could be a dishwasher at a restaurant when you first start. It doesn't matter whatever it was. Everyone has been either laid off, fired, or just finally quit a horrible job that they hated, and then look back and like, oh my God, I wasted so much time at that company, or I wasted so much time in that role, when once I switched departments, it was like a breath of fresh air. I get along with everyone so much better over here than I did in that department. Or this, I love doing this stuff. They ask me to do stuff on the weekends. I don't mind. Versus over here, 5 minutes after 5, I've already mentally checked out and I'm not even going to talk to anybody. You've had those types of, those feelings, right? That's what you need to really cater to, is your people that work in your company. They have a role in their mind already set of who they are. So find out what that is. Talk to them. Find like, hey, what is their passion? What do they love working with? Right? Like we have developers all the time where on our staff here where they love doing development work. They want to work in Python. They want to work in Web3. They want to do all these cool projects. Unfortunately, obviously, the world doesn't work that way where we can just give you whatever you want. But what I do is say, hey, look, I know writing documentation is brutal and you don't like doing it. So here's what, I got this other project over here. I'm going to get 25% of that to do some Web3 development stuff. I want you to work on that. Let's do some fun stuff too. And that's that balance that you have to find. So don't try to force people into a role they're not meant for. As soon as you realize this person's not meant or just not getting it, and it's actually delaying or causing massive impact across the board, you have to make a decision. Don't wait for people to come up to you and say anything, because most people won't. Most people are very timid. Most people are also, they don't want to rock the boat. I'm not that person, as you can probably tell. I'm a very blunt person. But it's only after years of learning the hard way. After, having someone on my employees of my own where it's, I've had them work for me and we were butting heads the whole time. It just wasn't working out right. Everyone was angry at each other. And then finally we parted ways, and now we're actually best friends. They work for completely different companies sometimes, or I just have them doing something completely different. And everything's working out great. I have a whole nother company that I run that does blockchain development, pure blockchain development. And my partner in that company was an old employee of mine. He came up to me one day and said, you know what, this identity stuff, it's just not for me. I just don't know what to do. I'm not really enjoying it here, whatever. And I was like, you know what, dude? I totally understand. Let's, what is it you want to do? He's like, I want to work with blockchain. I want to work with Bitcoin. That's all I want to do. And I was like, okay, cool, man. I wish you the best of luck. If you need anything, I want you to reach out to me because I think that stuff's cool too. 6 months later, he hit me up and was like, dude, I got this crazy stuff. I want to show it to you. And now, like, we're literal partners in another company. So there's huge potential there for people. You just have to let them kind of fill that role that's meant for them, and listen to them, listen to your employees, listen to your coworkers, find out, what is it they enjoy doing. Some people love just pushing buttons. All they want to do is just have, that mundane, I just want to sit here, I just want to do the thing. I don't mind being paged at night, I don't mind whatever, I just want to do the thing. I don't want to have to sit there and stress out and think about complex issues and be, responsible if an entire system or an entire production environment goes down. I don't want that. I just want to be able to do my thing and be done. That would drive me insane. I could never fulfill that role. But there are people where that's what they want to do. So find those roles for people, help push them into the roles that they're meant for, hire for the ones that you're missing, but don't try to put those square pegs in a round hole. It will just always work out bad. It never works out well. I hope some of you guys find this informative. It was a very long and hard task for me to learn, to realize how this stuff works. I just want to let you guys know you're not alone, and if you're experiencing this issue on either side of the spectrum, if you're an employee or you're a contractor and you're sitting there working somewhere and you're like, hey, man, I am that square peg and they're trying to put me in a round hole, this sucks, tell them that. Tell them like, hey, look, man, this is not working for me. I'm down to keep doing this, but we have to figure out a way to make me more productive. We need to figure out a way to give me a responsibility that, I can be passionate about. What's out there? How else could I help? Let's see if maybe you can get me over into this department where I really want to be. In the meantime, there's someone else that wants to be here and I can train them up while I kind of get over there. Trust me, your boss or whoever your managers are, whatever, they will welcome that conversation if they have 2 cents in their head, because it's only beneficial to everyone that people are doing what they want to do. So I hope this helps out some people. And if you guys have any questions, we want to give me advice on how to run things, I would love to hear that as well. Please hit me up, adam@nidus.com. You can follow us on all the social media stuff, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. We're at NidusIAM, NYEDISIAM. I would love to hear some stories about you, about how something like this has happened. And if you want to come onto our podcast, hit us up. We'd love to bring you on an interview. In the meantime, I'm going to let you guys go. I'll see you around. Bye.